Well, hello, and welcome to the Desert Spring Church podcast, brought to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. We're in the studio here at the church. My name is Julie Hart. I'm going to be the host of today's episode. I serve on staff here at Desert Spring Church as the Director of Connectional Ministries, and we are in the month of love. So this has been quite a treat so far. And this week we have a beautiful couple that I was excited when I knew I wanted to focus on married couples. This is a couple that popped right into my mind. I'm like, I would love to hear their story. I think it's going to be a little bit different than everybody else's story so far. So I have the Cases here with us, and we are just going to jump right into it. I'm going to ask y'all first to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your story here at Desert Spring, how long you've been here, and maybe some ways that you've been involved here at the church. Go ahead, John.
Yes, my name is John Case. I came to Desert Spring, I think, in about 1999 when it was meeting across the way at the high school.
Yeah.
And I think Pastor Dan Morley came in shortly thereafter, or the old sanctuary, which is now the
multi-purpose room.
Right, the all-purpose room served as the sanctuary then, and I think it was 1999, somewhere in that time frame.
Wonderful.
And I immediately jumped into the chance to sing in the choir because I've always sang in choirs since probably even before high school in my church in Germany. And so Jamie Dick was choir director at the time, and we had choir practice actually at the local school over there, I think the elementary school.
Okay.
Anyways, and so that has always been my plug-in into churches first, because that's how I worship, with singing. Unfortunately, I can't do choir anymore now because I lost my hearing in the lower ranges, and I'm alto, and I can't hear enough to learn new songs without messing everyone up.
Oh, now I don't think you introduced yourself. You jumped in. We assume that you're John's wife, right?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I'm Mariana Case, and yes, I'm John's wife, and we went over to the church together because we were already married then.
And who invited you to Desert Spring Church? Do you remember?
Actually, no one did. I just called up the church, and I got Dan Morley on the line, and and I asked him, well, where was the church meeting? And he said, well, it was meeting at the Palo Verde High School, and to come right on over. And he told me when worship services were, and so we just went in cold.
That's great.
And we loved it ever since. People were friendly, and welcoming, and you just plug right in.
Now, were you our Methodist before you came here?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We came, the church we came from two Methodist churches, St. Stephen's United Methodist Church in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and then we went to St. John's United Methodist Church
in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Both of those were Methodist churches, and at St. Stephen's it was Reverend Clyde Stanfield who was got us actually involved in Methodism at that church. And
I, however, grew up Catholic.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, I grew up Catholic, but I was always involved in the church, in the Catholic Church too, in Germany. I always I was in choir, I was in youth group, I went camping, we went hiking like all over Germany, and from youth hostel to youth hostel, and
wow.
So yes, but when I came and I married John, and he had a United Methodist background, and the Catholic churches in the U.S. are quite I think rigid.
Rigid, yeah.
And so I didn't embrace that, and so the United Methodist Church, I fit right in.
Interesting. So that's interesting to hear you say that it's a little rigid here. That wasn't the case growing up for you in Germany. It was less rigid then?
Not as much, no.
Oh, interesting.
It's more, but and remember the two in Germany, we only have basically two churches. We have the Protestant and we have the Catholic, and and the Jewish population. And that's all we have.
Yeah.
And I think they do have United Methodists now, but not
at the time.
Not then.
Well, wonderful. So I am very excited to hear how y'all met and everything, because obviously, you weren't the girl next door, I can tell. But first of all, tell me, how many years have the two of you been married?
51 years.
51 years. 51 years. That is a pretty long time. 51 years.
Yes.
And so before we started recording, you were telling me that you met in college, which is funny because now you're my third coupled interview, and everyone meets in college. So I think I'm going to go into youth group and tell the kids next week, like, y'all better go to college. So, but I think because there's a little different childhood, before we get into how the two of you met, tell me about, a little bit about your childhood and growing up.
Well, as I said, I grew up as a family with 4 children, my 2 brothers and my sister. My sister and I are super close. We about a year and a half apart. She came to visit, on my 75th birthday recently, and so did my 2 brothers. And but when I was 19, I graduated. You graduate a little later in Germany from high school. Mm-hmm. I graduated and didn't know what to do with myself. And I had a friend who was already in the U.S. as a governess to a family, and they knew about someone else.
Doris Steglich.
Yeah, Doris Steglich. And he was the principal of my high school, and he asked me if I would go. And I said, sure.
Wow.
And
go where?
So
it should.
I did. I had to work all summer in the hospital, and pushing bedpans and all kinds of things to make enough money to come over, because I had to pay for the flight over here, and then the family I was staying with would pay for the flight coming back. And so, I made the money, came over, took care of 2 children, ages kindergarten and 4 years old, and never looked back. And then, then my friend Doris, who was the other German girl, we went to the university and International Club
Cosmopolitan Club.
Cosmopolitan.
Okay.
Just on a lark, and met John. and then you can tell the rest of the story.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. I should probably say a little bit about my Methodist background in
please.
Boulder. I had 2 wonderful Sunday school teachers. Their names were Jack and Jean Hodges, and Jack Hodges was a professor of mathematics at University of Colorado, and his wife Jean, and another couple, Orion and Daleen Beaver, were very active in Methodist Youth Fellowship, and I was very active. And during the years of high school, we had what was called the Methodist Youth Footlighters, and they would put on plays. And I was involved in 3 plays that were in the sanctuary in Boulder. JB was the first play, then The Diary of Anne Frank was the second, and the third play was In White America. And so that's just gives you a little context as to the significance and importance. And, I look back at Jack, for example. Jack has passed away. But, you think about, well, when you were growing up as a teenager, who was the most significant adult role model aside from your parents, and it was Jack.
Oh, wow. I love that. I love it.
Yeah, and so anyway, and then also another Sunday school teacher, his name was Fred Shelton, owned the Boulderado Steakhouse there in Boulder, and he was the person who gave me my first job. But, the thing is that one of the things that's kind of, I think, somewhat unique for me is that from kindergarten all the way up through graduate school at the University of Colorado, all of the schools that I went to were sort of within a 10-mile radius. And,
that's wild. Yeah.
And one of the things that is rather interesting is the University of Colorado Memorial Center is only a stone's throw from where I grew up. And where I first met Mariana is probably about 2 blocks away from where I went to kindergarten.
That is so sweet. It's just too sweet.
You want to hear about our first date?
Oh, I definitely want to hear about your first date. They're laughing. I want to hear how he asked you out on the first date.
English was my second language, right? I mean, I had 9 years of English in high school, but, when you come over, you don't speak that well, Anyways, he took me to a lecture by
Byron White, who was a Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and so,
I think I slept for the whole thing.
You are such a romantic, John. You just screamed and swept her right on off her feet.
Yeah.
Now, were you sure that it was a date? When he asked you, did you know, is this a date or?
Well, I wasn't sure, but the guest family I stayed with, Bill Love, he's also since deceased, but I'm still close with the kids. But anyways, he says, just go, with them and see how it is and stuff, and said the only thing, my only provision is don't get pregnant.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure at the lecture you're definitely not.
He was such a joker.
So that was you slept through your first date, right? You said you fell asleep during the lecture.
Yeah, that was.
And but you had a second date, obviously. Mm-hmm. So
the second date.
Well, we went to the IHOP.
Oh yeah, we always went to the IHOP.
We always went to the IHOP because you can get cheap coffee and sit all night and talk.
So there you go.
And we would talk, I guess what would I describe Mariana? After 51 years, I think I sort of connected some of the dots. And I thought, say for this interview, how would you describe Mariana? Yeah. And how would you, let's say, what I would say is that in 1964, there was The Sound of Music. Mm-hmm. And then we had Maria. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And so Mariana is coming to the United States as an au pair girl.
Okay, yeah.
To take care of 2 children.
Mm-hmm.
And as she says, singing was part of what she does.
Yeah.
Her love of nature was what she does. And on occasion, she's not too shy to tell you exactly what she thinks.
I love that about you. I just
when
that.
Things were mattered. And so I would describe Mariana is the closest person that I know of Maria.
Oh, that is so sweet.
He's hopelessly romantic.
He really is. That's the sweetest thing I've heard.
He is.
It's very sweet. And I think I would say spot on. I think that's beautiful. Now, how are you going to describe John?
Well, he, I don't know, what attracted me to John is he's incredibly kind.
Yeah.
And sensitive. considerate, and you wouldn't, think he's an engineer, so he's very analytical also and very mathematical.
Yeah.
Very, very, very smart.
Yeah.
And,
that part
so,
I did
yeah,
know.
So,
yeah.
And he's not shy of giving a lecture to his children. One of his kids gave him a mug once saying, I'm a dad. What did they say? I'm a dad. Even if you need a lecture, you will get a lecture.
Well, there was another thing. Sometimes I would start out and sort of with a little dialogue, and then and I would turn to Mariana and I'd say, and now what do you think about that? And then she would say, well, I don't know, but I'm certainly sure that you're going to tell me
what you think about it.
Yeah.
That's great. That is great. That is wonderful. It's funny because when you said you did these plays, you kind of as a youth, you already took my, I guess I had a preconceived notion, like I know you to be the engineer, brainy guy. So I'm like, really, you were like up there performing. So it's just really cool.
Yeah, and I I went into engineering. My dad is an engineer. My brother's an engineer. But the thing that came across with those plays is that I have no difficulty speaking to large groups. Mm-hmm. No difficulty whatsoever. And I owe that to Daleen Beaver, who just made the butterflies fly in formation. Mm-hmm. And it was very important. I'd say MYF was exceptionally important. But then I guess we got to college, and I don't know. It was like I lived at home. One of the amazing things when I sort of look back at this. So imagine I'm living with my parents in Boulder. My parents had built 2 soundproof studios in the basement of our house, and so we as college students would go there for our studies. And why did I live at home? Well, the laundry was free.
Well, why not? Dinner every night.
Yeah, and my mom was an exceptionally good cook. And we had lived there, since 1954, when my dad, at the age of 37, or at the age of 34, 1954, he came to Boulder to finish a degree in electrical engineering. Of course, his grades were far better than my brother and myself because he was just so motivated to go to school. But the thing that happened here that's so amazing, I get my diploma. We get our civil ceremony in Boulder.
In Boulder, you're married right there.
The family flies to Germany, my brother and my parents.
Oh, really?
Okay. I stay with Mariana's parents there in Mainz, and we had really one of the most beautiful weddings. How would I describe it?
Well, you have to know too that we were married in my church, where my Catholic church actually, where I grew up in, and they would not marry you unless you had a civil ceremony first with a certificate. So we got married in the courthouse in Boulder, Colorado first, before we traveled all the way to Germany with that certificate before they married us there.
By the way, the courthouse is a stone's throw away from First United Methodist Church in Boulder.
Where you,
Everything is close.
It's too great. It's too great.
So and then we flew over, and John was terribly afraid of flying. So,
yeah, that's another story. I mean, we held hands the whole way.
Oh, that's love.
But then we got married in my church, and my whole family was there and everyone, and and it was kind of an all-day affair. You had the ceremony, and then you went to this beautiful restaurant.
Restaurant Favorite.
Favorite.
Overlooking the Rhine River.
Mm-hmm. And with a rose garden. And so we
went to
had
Vienna.
a lunch.
Yeah, we should say.
Lunch, and then in the afternoon you have cake and coffee, and it's just kind of like an all day.
Wow.
There was one tradition that I thought was really interesting. It was the Polterabend.
The Polterabend.
Polterabend, yes. And so I'm living, in the small apartment where Mariana grew up in. And I look down upon the street, and there's somebody who's smashing these plates. And then somebody said, well, this is the Polterabend. And so what we need to have you do, John, is to go down there with your broom, clean up those plates. And the idea is that you will... Let's see. Maybe you explain it.
So all the friends come over and they smash plates on your doorstep, and then the groom has to sweep it up so that you never will have any trouble in your marriage, because you got all
you won't smash plates within your marriage.
In your marriage, because you're so mad at
and
each
that
other.
part of it seemed to work out very, very well, for the years.
That's amazing. Pronounce that again.
Polterabend.
Polterabend. Okay, so you had no idea this was coming. Suddenly there are people smashing plates outside the door, and you're like, what's happening?
That was, just totally not on my radar screen whatsoever.
Okay, so now I need to back up a minute, because how long was the courtship before you got married?
Okay, so I met Mariana at the university there.
1969.
I'd say 1969. I'm going to say the fall, although I don't recall exactly. And then we got married June 10th on 1972. So let's see, it was about 3 years.
Okay. Okay. So how soon into this did you know? Maybe it's a different answer for each of you. Like, this is the one.
Pardon me?
How soon into the dating did you know that this is the one you were going to marry?
I didn't. I had to.
I love that.
I had to
so
get
honest, John. She's like,
I had to actually go back to Germany because my visa ran out.
Yeah, your visa.
I was on a visitor's visa, and I could only be there a year, and and I had it renewed actually once, so I couldn't renew my visa again, so I had to go back. So I went back to Germany and worked at the base at a school. In Mainz, where I'm from. And we were just sending letters back and forth. Yeah. I still have those letters too.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do. We were,
writing
back and forth. And
one thing I should say about Mariana that is just incredible. I mean, she is a master scrapbooker.
Oh.
She has scrapbooks of the last 50 years, the children growing up, the vacations that were taken.
Oh, gosh.
And she continues to this day with the grandkids.
Wow, that's beautiful. And a beautiful letter writer.
Yeah, so anyway, we had to, I had to go back. And then, so I got another visa.
Better go back for John?
And Sandy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sandy was the one.
Sandy, the host
Sandy
lady,
Love.
Yeah.
She gave me she got me into the vocational school, just to take, some classes and stuff. So, I would be legit, coming back and, all this kind of stuff, and so I did. And that's, and then you proposed.
I proposed.
Okay, now I need to hear about this because we skipped past the proposal. Did you take her to like a lecture hall,
what's
John?
What's really amazing, I sort of knew after taking her out on the first date. I just, and then seeing her, the au pair girl, taking care of Chris and Katie. It just, she was it. She was it. And the question was just, how are we going to make this happen?
Mm-hmm. But you knew that you needed to make this happen.
I did. And I when you find sort of a soulmate, you just, So I knew right away. And so we had the letters, and she came back. I had the engagement ring. So the engagement ring had two parts. It was the engagement, and then, and of course my parents are in Boulder. So she is, I didn't know her parents until we flew to Germany.
Yeah.
But I got to know his parents, really well before we did it. And his mom and I got along fabulously.
Oh, I bet she was.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
I have a
really
great story about that.
Really did.
That's wonderful.
And his dad is more reserved, but but I got to know him too, and I just love the man. He's like John. He was always thinking, and always had something in the back of his mind, or always working on something.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing.
Well, and and John brings you home, and they must just both be so delighted at what a beautiful, wonderful.
Yeah, I think so. And the spirituality that we had is just remarkable. When I think about it over the years, just how we, here's a story about, we know that Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." And Mariana had this way of coming into the situations and just making things better. And I have a great story here. And actually, it's on Facebook, and it's Christmas of 1979. And that was the Christmas where I don't know, we were going to move from Boulder from Morrison, Colorado to Richland, when I got involved in nuclear waste management. And for that Christmas, we usually either went to Nebraska, to see the grandmothers, or they came to Boulder. And that year, my mom was kind of, well, I don't know if we want to have the grandmothers over this year. And Mariana just steps forward and says, well, if they were not going to stay with my mom, they can stay with us in Morrison. And the thing that you should know that is really beautiful, she took a liking to my Grandma Kaufman. And if I had to say what it is about my Christian faith, my Christian beliefs, it was Grandma Kaufman, who in Nebraska, in Gearing, raised 7 kids as a single mom during the Great Depression.
Yeah, she was quite a lady.
And just, and the bond that happened with her is...
Yeah, she's, Grandma Kaufman, up to the day he died, she always did something for the church. And, she rocked babies in the hospital, or she always volunteered. So I volunteered a lot, in my time. And that's what, she was a very good example.
She taught that. She taught that to you.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Beautiful example of what, how you go out and make a difference.
Mm-hmm. That explains a lot because, that's your servant.
Yeah.
So one of the things that she did is she made this cross stitch, right? The cross stitch for the grandchildren, and so you made this cross stitch. I actually put it up on Facebook because it was in my parents' apartment, and so Grandma Kaufman they inherited it. And what did the cross stitch say?
something about grandkids,
complete the circle of
life. So it was a circle of all the grandkids.
And what's remarkable, actually, today, is that Paisley, who is our adopted granddaughter, she was doing some research on ancestry. And she found this thing that was with my parents. There's a picture of my parents, and she found this thing, and I thought,
yeah, she came this morning and asked about it. So,
and it just brought tears to my eyes. Actually, to think about it.
That's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
So you won over everybody's hearts. So when you get ready to propose, hey, everyone's on board with this, which is not always everyone's case.
Oh yeah.
That's not always a case for everyone. So.
Yeah, my parents. I think they got to know Mariana. I think your parents, your dad was a little bit. Who is this John Case?
Oh, my dad. But my dad did not forgive me that I moved to the United States and married John until I had kids of my own. Until when he met the grandkids, that's when he came around. But until that point, he was very, very angry that I moved to the United States.
Ah.
But I think over the years, the thing about it is, so we get married. Our honeymoon was in Vienna and Salzburg. I mean, we went to the Mozart house. We went to and I would say that, at the time, when it came to me in terms of the marriage, I would say that, I know Mariana's going to be away from her family. And so I just have to make this effort to make it special, our relationship, so that, she can travel back. And she did.
Yeah, I traveled back a lot.
And in fact, even the time that we were here at Desert Springs, I got to a place where I said, I've been to Germany a number of times, and so what would happen is that she would fly back every year, sort of by myself, and it'd leave me by myself, and so
it was one ticket versus two.
One ticket versus two,
Yeah.
And so that we did that for a long period of time.
Yeah, especially when the kids were young, and I took them back so that they would get to know the other grandparents as well. So it was important to John that I took the kids, and and he didn't. We didn't have that much money to begin with, obviously, when we first started out, and it was one ticket versus 2, 3,
But they
tickets,
need
so.
to know
Right.
their whole family.
But to think about this, partly also, you think of me as an individual, living with my parents, getting my diploma, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, getting married.
Yeah.
There's no bachelor life.
No,
whatsoever.
I was totally thinking about that. Actually, I was thinking about that a while ago when you said that. Yeah. So you had to. I mean, mom's not there, and now you've got Mariana. So I'm sure were some growing pains in that to say, hey, mom doesn't live here anymore.
Yeah.
But so when he proposed to you, when that moment came, were you prepared for it? Did you know it was coming?
Yeah, I probably did, and and it was okay. It was good.
It was a good thing.
It was a good thing, and we we had our ups and downs. I think first, because I'm a very private person, and I need a lot of space, and and we kind of had to learn this give and take, and how he had to learn. Please don't talk to me when I get up first thing in the morning.
That's great.
It's really hard for me because I'm an early
I'm a
riser.
morning person too, and
because he gets up at 4 and 5 in the morning.
Exactly,
Yeah.
John.
And he already has
exactly.
been up for 2 or 3 hours, and so he already thought about all of the things that that's happening in the world and everything, and I just get up, barely awake, and he had to learn that.
That's great.
Please do not talk to me.
Give me a minute. Give me a minute. That's great. That's great. Yeah, and so what? And also, there's a whole different culture. There's a whole different culture. So tell me about that, about navigating just the differences in your culture.
Well, I had 2.5 years in this country, before we married. So I already, had decided when I'm living in a country, I need to, embrace that culture.
Yeah.
I need, at least to a certain, and I can keep some things, that where I come from, I never forget where I come from. When I live in a different country, I have to embrace their culture. So I embraced it wholeheartedly. I learned, I learned how to shave.
Oh, the Valentine box.
That's,
You need to tell the story about the Valentine boxes.
Actually, the lady, I was governess to Sandy Love, and she was kind of like my second mom.
Yeah.
And she taught me those American conventions.
Yeah.
There are differences.
There are real differences.
And how to be a lady, and how to act in mixed company, and how to do those things, because I hadn't traveled out of the country before, and I was just this German person, and coming here, and then later on, after we got married, I found it very, very important that I became a U.S. citizen as well.
Oh yeah.
Because first of all, it's a hassle to travel with 2 different passports. Your kids have an American passport and you have a German passport, and it doesn't really work very well. And so I had to learn all the civics and all the, stuff like that, which I did. And I became a citizen in
it was September of 1976.
76, right?
Yeah.
So that was a year after Nicole was born.
And the Loves came to that.
Yeah, the Loves came to that too.
To that ceremony.
Yeah. And I'm,
Beautiful.
And I'm glad I did, because, I live here now. And, even though I have been back, I wouldn't live there anymore now, because, I have all my friends here now.
And when you get to the point of starting a family, I know that when I have 2 children, and when you get pregnant, when you're going to have the baby, it's like, listen, my husband, that's optional if he's here or not, in the hospital, but I need my mom. I need my mama. Right? So,
that was very hard.
Yeah.
Because my mom had a heart condition and she couldn't travel.
Yeah.
So she couldn't be here with me. So I depended a lot on John's mom. And, she came out and helped out, especially with the first one. My parents we lived when Nicole was born, our first one, in Walnut Creek, California. That's where we lived at the time. And my parents came for the specific purpose so they would be there for the birth. Well, guess what? The baby was 2 weeks late. And so they had to go back. They couldn't stay longer. Yes. So Nicole came 2 weeks late.
Yeah.
And so, they had to go back.
And
so that was tough.
Very hard.
From my perspective, I was in the Lamaze classes for all 3 daughters. I was in the delivery room for all 3 daughters. I got to cut the umbilical cord for Danielle, the 3rd daughter. And it was, some of these complexities, I thought, I just have to step up to the plate. I have to be there for her.
Always.
And, that I think that was part of what we did.
Always. I mean, John, is just incredibly reliable and stepping up when there's, emergencies. And, I've always depended on him for that, maybe a little bit too much. But
he seems like he would be calm in a crisis. Right?
He will, he will analyze it and things and, think, stuff. And so, yes, he's very, very... always there, always there.
By the time you're up in the morning, he's already been up and analyzed and figured out what to do about the problem. How handy.
Yes,
that's great.
Yes.
That is great. So you have 3 children.
That's correct.
3 girls.
3 girls.
Okay. So So tell me about that.
Well, the oldest one is Nicole, and life comes full circle because about 4 or 5 years ago, 2014, they decided to go and live in Germany. She and her husband. Our granddaughter was 3 years old at the time. And so they picked up from Seattle, Washington, and moved to Hamburg, Germany.
Wow.
Lived in Hamburg, Germany for 3 or 4 years.
2018, I think it was,
Yeah,
or 19.
and yes, and
Somewhere in there.
then and now they live in the UK, in London, England.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's Nicole. But she was always the one who embraced the German culture the most. And she also learned the language the best. She learned, took it in high school and everything else. So she was always the one who embraced it the most.
Well, because she had to make up for coming 2 weeks late and missing out on Grandma Kaiser. Okay, so she's your oldest, and she has one.
She has one daughter, Svetlana, and Svetlana is
2011.
She's going to be a teenager.
Oh, good
She's
luck.
She's going to be a
good luck
teenager
to
in May, yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And may the odds be ever in their favor. Okay. Her name is Svetlana?
Svetlana,
yeah.
And what does that mean?
Well, it's a Russian name.
It's a Russian name. Her husband used to be a figure skater and always admired, the Russian figure skaters, I guess.
Yeah,
and,
interesting.
So that's where the name came, Svetlana, from.
Okay, and then your second daughter?
The second daughter is Colleen, and she is a elementary school teacher. She's always taught at the at-risk schools.
Yeah, at-risk schools. And there's a story here that involves Desert Spring that, Tom Cromartie had started a mentoring program for schools at Squires Elementary.
CP Squires, yeah.
So one of the things that happened, and kind of the vicissitudes of life, Colleen graduated from high school, entered the University of New Mexico to in education. She stayed back in Albuquerque, and we moved to Las Vegas. And here we are at this, at Desert Spring United Methodist Church. And then one of the things that happens is that she graduates from UNM with her degree, and she comes out to Las Vegas, and I think she's looking for a job. And here Mariana had been involved in the mentoring program with, teaching at Squires Elementary. This is also something quite remarkable about Mariana. She has been involved in children's education. You were a volunteer in Walnut Creek for Mary Jo Pettigrew. Mm-hmm. And so she was there. And then, Char Brown, Pastor Wayne's wife, was there. And so I would say, in retrospect, that that connection got Colleen her first job.
That's great.
And she's been teaching. She has her 20-year certificate with the school district.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah,
that's great.
And she adopted Paisley from foster care, actually.
And Paisley is our very special
granddaughter from foster care.
Unbelievably special.
Here in Clark County, she
Clark
went
County
through
foster care.
Yeah.
And what year did she adopt Paisley?
It was April 2017. So it's been.
We went to the courthouse and.
So
that's beautiful.
God I think that's on Colleen's Facebook page. So that's our second granddaughter.
Okay. And Paisley's how old again now?
Paisley was born in 2012, so she is going to be in October 24th. She's going to be 12 this year, I think.
Okay, so they're all getting into that age. Okay, we love that. Good times.
And Paisley comes every morning, and we take her to school because she goes to charter school up here.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Colleen teaches way out.
The public schools start at 7 o'clock, and her discovery school starts at 8.
Yeah.
So Paisley comes generally at about 6:30 in the morning,
Yep.
and we
that's great.
Then we have our youngest
is Danielle.
She's our caboose. She was born after everyone else, and she works for a. She also got a degree at UNLV, actually.
Criminal justice.
She did come to youth group here in Desert Spring in her time.
Oh.
I think she was in the same youth group as maybe Katie
Beal and Lindsay.
That age group.
Then, right?
Anyways, and
great.
but she hasn't. She doesn't come to church now. So, she married, and they have a little boy, our only grandson, Deacon, who's 2.
Who you've been you watch, which God bless you.
This week, it may interest you that because Jesse is doing some work down on the Strip and found some work. He's a gig worker, and Jesse's parents have had some misfortune this week. First, they had a roof leak, and then Debbie fell and injured her knee. And so we've had Deacon these past 4 days.
And you still showed up in the studio, so that's pretty impressive. You're still upright?
Well, Danielle is able to work from home if she has to, so she's working from home at our house.
She's at our house.
Oh, and you're going to her house.
Exactly.
Oh.
Well, yeah, so...
Okay.
And so, and Deacon, what can we say about Deacon? We
took him to the library to story.
We were at the park up here just today, and we took him to the children's time at the library.
Keep him busy.
So
it's absolutely great. It's they have toys out and everything else. I recommend it to anyone who needs to socialize their kids, for free.
Yeah,
because it absolutely doesn't cost you anything.
Or if you're watching the grandkids, you need a little tiny break.
That's right. We take turns.
You got to take turns. Yeah, I was telling you, my brother's grandkids come over 2, 3, and 4, and we have to take turns, and the place is actually completely demolished by the time it's over, and then we have to just get enough strength to. We'll just deal with that tomorrow. It's just go to our rooms, and we're like, that's it, we're done. So I can hear in your story that God is in the center of your story, and that you come to this with faith, and even so, I know that marriage is hard, and that many years of marriage and raising kids, and certainly raising 3 girls, that there's still challenges. I don't know how people do it without God, because it's hard enough with God. But what would you say is in your secret sauce, that's made you get 51? Am I remembering 51?
51 years,
51.
yeah.
What's in your secret sauce that got you through these years?
Well, I think, there's sort of a give and take always in marriage. And sometimes, like this last year, the challenge, I got the shingles. Guess who my caretaker is? Right here. And then, of course, she fell. We were visiting Chris and Katie.
Yeah.
Those same people in Boulder who she raised. Okay, so many years ago.
Oh, now I'm understanding. That's where you were visiting.
Right, yeah.
Got
And she
you.
fell.
Remember
And
the fall.
and so, I had to step up the plate. But one of the amazing things about Mariana is I'm sitting there, and she was injured in the hospital, but there were two people, one in Denver and one in Boulder, who consider Mariana to be the second mom.
Yeah.
And so, what do I need to do to take care of the situation? So I drove back. I got Joel helped me, to get the bathroom prepared for her. We got special equipment, because we weren't sure just how, the convalescence with regards to that. So I think, and the story sort of goes on and on. How long is your program here?
I have a really good story for Desert Spring, though, how important churches are. How important your church family are. When I broke my hip the first time, it was also in Boulder.
It was in Denver.
I should never go back to Boulder.
You're grounded from Boulder.
It was in Denver. It was in Denver.
And guess what? And I was in the hospital, and who visited me?
The church.
Joanne Beale.
Joanne Beale?
Well, both Ken and Joanne.
Ken and Joanne
came
visited me
to the hospital when she was there.
They just happened to be in the area.
Oh, gosh.
And it was on the prayer chain.
Well, I put out a kind of an SOS.
Yes, I remember that.
They heard about it. And, here they are. I was just floored. And, I still remember that to this day. I was there. And,
another
my
beautiful
church,
couple, Ken and Joanne.
Yeah.
Another wonderful couple.
Yeah. And so your church family is, I don't know how you do it without having, that support.
Yeah.
How people do it. You have to have that. And as far as marriage goes, yes, it's a give and take. And it's also, I think once you're married, it's not just about you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's about, how can you make, your partner's life easier?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How can you make it easier?
From the outside looking in, you seem so different in so many different ways, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's really cool how much admiration you have for one another about it's like you really truly do have to accept each other's differences because there are so many including what time we go to bed and get up and and just your own backgrounds. I mean, you coming here at a very young age, leaving home and going to a whole different country, and you living your life until marriage in a 6-block radius, right? So, it's very different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We are. We have our common ground, I think, in our care for children. Of course, I'm mathematical, so it's getting back to Professor Jack Hodges. When I was growing up at the First Church, United Methodist Church in Boulder, and just through engineering school and then graduate school, and that's another thing. She typed my thesis on a electric typewriter.
Oh gosh, remember those?
Yes,
okay. Then you knew she loved you. Okay. Oh,
with all the Greek symbols and everything. But of course, my sort of my professional life involved the Yucca Mountain Project and the Nevada Nuclear Waste Storage Investigations Project, and growing our family in Albuquerque. And so I have been always sort of very mathematical. And in fact, actually, one of my friends is coming over this very day. He and I have had a professional association, say, in doing mathematics for about 25 years. One time I had jury duty, and and I was going to be selected by as an alternate juror, and And so the judge, Bonaventure says, "Oh, Mr. Case, how are you? How long have you been married?" Well, I think it was about 49 years at that time. "Oh, what do you do for a living?" Well, I said, to the judge, I said, "Well, I'm retired, but I do recreational mathematics." And the courtroom burst out in laughter.
Recreational listen. They're word people and number people, and I'm a word people. So God bless you.
Mariana has developed this new ministry with Joel and Anne.
Mm-hmm. Grief Share.
Grief Share.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought that up because it is a really important ministry. In fact, I was visiting someone who's newly widowed and who is ill right now, so hasn't been for the last few weeks, but talking about the importance of that. And so I'm so grateful that you're a part of that ministry.
Anne is really, much in charge. I just lead one of the groups, but it's actually, helped me too, thinking, I don't know how long we'll have. Mm-hmm. At our age, I'm 75. You think about, how long will it be, and what do I do, when something happens.
Yeah.
And that, that's in the back of my mind too.
Every day is a gift, and you're right. The older we get, the more aware we are that we have most likely fewer days left than we've already spent. Right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So I do think about that, and how. How have I lived my life, and how, can I still make a difference? Mm-hmm. Because I can't be up and down the floor as much anymore with kids. But I've been thinking lately too, maybe I can rock babies, or mm-hmm. do something, and that because I've always loved children, mm-hmm. I just can't.
Yeah, that was it.
And more limited.
When I saw that,
her love for children.
That was,
mm-hmm. And then she got to love on your children that way.
Yeah,
Thank you for the example that you are, to me, to many of us. We have younger listeners, young parents, that are, in the real trenches of, to get into soccer practice, getting the homework done and the hard times. And I think that you give those parents hope, mm-hmm. Because obviously you didn't talk a whole lot about your struggles. You can't be married 51 years. You can't be alive 51 years and not have struggles. Mm-hmm. But to have each other by the side and know that, whether you take a tumble or go through a health scare or you just parenting, is...
Well, parenting these days, I don't even know how parents do it these days.
I feel like I got through that one just in the nick of time because it's really looks really, really hard. And,
yes.
And one of the dreams I have here is to have more mentorship, multi-generational. I just am very blessed to, I'm 55, so I'm kind of in between, right? I'm in the middle. So I have many friends that are older, many friends that are younger, my own age, and just the gift that we just to be able to learn from the wisdom of others. And so I hope that those listening out there, get a cheer from your story, and it certainly gives me a cheer. I think we're gonna have a 2.0. We're gonna have a second episode because I know there's so much more story in the two of you. But I'm gonna close us out and thank you again. And for listeners, by now they had to where this is posted. Hopefully there's the picture because I now have the picture that I get to share. If you're listening to it where there's not the picture, go to the Desert Spring Church website where you can go to the podcast and see because it's such a sweet picture. So,
thank you, Julie.
Thank you so much.
We sure appreciate you too.
Thank you so much. Let's pray. Gracious, loving God, you said the most important thing is love, and it's what you came here to teach us. It's what we continue to try to learn. And we just thank you for the example of John and Mariana to help teach us what that love looks like. Not just love in marriage and love as parents, love within the church, love within the world. For the people who loved on them and taught them how to love others, we give you thanks. For the people who accepted and encouraged and helped to grow them into the beautiful people that they are, we just give you thanks. We thank you for the way they light up the lobby on a Sunday morning and all of the important work that they continue to do, least of which, of course, is being grandparents and the care that they give there, which is so important. We just give you thanks for the way that your light shines so brightly through them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.